Josephine County Republican. It's April the 9th, and I did an interview with Professor Dave Clements, and we're going to go ahead and get right into that, ladies and gentlemen. Here it is. All right, everyone, welcome back. Today I've got Dave Clements joining me, someone who's been right in the middle of one of the most talked about issues in the country right now, which is election integrity. David, I want to start out by saying I appreciate you coming out to Grants Pass to our Patriots conference. We had a pretty good turnout, a lot of people, and your presentation definitely got people thinking and talking afterward. That's exactly what we were hoping for when we put this together today. And I'll say this too: you've got a great legal background. You've taken a lot of heat for your positions, and whether people agree or disagree or be willing to step up and make your case. So honestly, I think that you should maybe consider throwing in your name for attorney general at some point. I don't,
Yeah,
yeah.
probably not. Probably
No.
not. But no, it's always nice to hear your name circulated. I don't hear it that much, so I don't think there's any serious consideration for that.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
I think you'd make a great one, honestly. Um, well, I mean, you clearly understand the legal side of what you're talking about and and you're not afraid to push it either. So, I just wanted to dig into a couple things and talk about the conference, kind of a rundown of the conference, those that missed it, give you a chance to expand on them, some clarification, maybe answer some questions. I mean, the presentation was great. I did put that on my channel. You got the full presentation from the Patriots conference on my channel. So a lot of people have actually been watching that. I've been doing little clips of it. Um, so anyway, questions. You've spent years digging into election systems. What is the biggest thing you've seen that the average person still doesn't understand?
Well, let me say this. I think the average person does understand that our elections are rigged. The average person. Um, when I go out to Middle America, I go out to Portland. You're going to be hard pressed to find anyone that truly believes Joe Biden got 81 million votes. All right, that's now when it comes to state representatives, state senators, officials, election vendors, and a captured media. No, but they're not acting in good faith. I mean, so that there's the distinction. Um, I think you'd have to be an abject fool to think that our elections are fine. And the biggest evidence for that is when the shoe is on the other foot. Look how the Democrats act and talk. I mean, right now you had a clip from Nancy Pelosi that said, we've got to watch out because Trump's going to likely use the technology to rig the 2026 midterms. It's like, oh, that's convenient. So, what is it? Do you have the ability to rig votes through the technology or not? Because prior to 2020, every Democrat was banging that drum, and uh, and then they stopped banging the drum because their guy was installed, and now they're banging the drum again. So there's just a level of duplicitousness, and so no, I think the average American gets it. They know what's up.
Yeah, I do. When I was putting the clips out on social media, which I know you hate social media, but I'm kind of the social media guy. I'm a nerd. I mean, I've got a Star Trek poster right here. So I mean, so question to you, when people hear election integrity, they think that it's obvious or they think it's a conspiracy. What do you think the disconnect really is with with those kind of people, folks?
Pride.
Pride.
It's pride. People don't
Yeah.
want to be wrong. They will cling to their worldview, and they want to be right rather than be aligned with truth. And when you've got a 24-hour news feed that's beaming into your brain telling you it's safe and secure, they don't want to feel stupid. They don't want to feel marginalized. They want it's a herd mentality. And you know, truth doesn't work that way. I mean, the, so I, whether people want to call it a conspiracy or not, I look, conspiracy. It's a word that was weaponized out of the JFK assassination to shut people up, to make them feel stupid, to gaslight them. I've proven many conspiracy cases as a prosecutor. It's just it's just an agreement to carry out a shared purpose. That's all it is.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation going on. I mean, and when you were saying at the Patriots conference, get off of social media, I was like nodding my head. I'm like, yes, people need to do that. We need to get off of social media and we need to get out and vote. We need to get out and stop this stuff as Republicans. Because if we're not doing that and we're just sitting there trolling social media, which by the way is full of misinformations on both sides. So there's fake news coming out of the left, there's fake news coming out of the right. We don't like to think that's the case, but there's memes on the internet, like they're pictures with, you know, headlines and they're completely false on both sides. It's just fueling the rage.
Yeah.
So getting out and talking to people, that's really where it's at. So you've looked at the data. I don't know if you've looked at the machines, the processes across multiple states. Is this a local problem? Is it a state problem, or is it something bigger?
It's bigger. It's a nation state problem. Um, and so, I mean, I've come to the conclusion based on my review of the data that the means exist to affect any election anywhere at any time. And that doesn't mean that it's the same method of cheating. There are low tech ways that work just fine. Good old fashioned ballot stuffing. We see that in rural areas where votes are shaved, where there's no chain of custody. We've seen phenomena where counting was stopped and election night reporting clearly shows an algorithmic function that's impossible. Um, and that's usually done in swing states where registration is roughly equal between Democrats and Republicans. So the need to use electronic means heightens in areas that are competitive and in urban areas. But if you can swing a race doing mail in ballots and shave off enough votes in all of your adjacent counties, sometimes you don't even have to touch the big cities. Now, the data seems to suggest that they're touching everything everywhere, but they'll leave a few clean counties. There are methods when you're going to subvert something to have clean counties that you can send people to audit, and that's one of the big lies out there is that your audits are typically randomly selected. It's just a giant magic trick, and the way that they do it is typically they'll have the lottery ball phenomena where you've got different numbers and you really don't know which ball is going to show up, and they read the numbers and they type the numbers into a computer, or they'll have like a 20-sided die that they'll roll. And again, that's random. You can believe that that's a random roll, and they'll place the numbers that they read off from several dice rolls into the computer, and it'll give you the area that you're going to select to do a random audit. Here's the problem with that. If you look at the possible numeric combinations from either the lottery ball system or the 12-sided die or 20-sided die, you got about a million different combinations. And when you look at the number of precincts in a state, you'll be hard pressed to have more than like 2,000 precincts. So you don't have a one-to-one relationship between the process and the number of precincts, which means when you enter those numbers into a computer, there's some weighted feature that has to happen in order for you to get to your location. And so we started looking at areas that were selected for randomized audits. And it's always the same locations. So New Mexico, for instance, there's like 3 or 4 precincts that are always audited. So that just tells me that, okay, we're going to go through the motions. We're going to expect that no one's going to do the deep dive that Dave Clements is doing. And we're going to show you how clean the process is. I've seen it happen in Idaho, where you just seem to have these token counties that probably aren't being messed with. So every con you need something that's clean to point people to get you off their backs. So this is a very, very well thought out, meticulous uh, cheat. It's elegant, and the bad actors are trying to do one of two things: to beat the logic and accuracy test to approve the machines for their usage, or to beat these faux audits, which are a lot like a magic trick. And that's what everyone points to. All of your politicians say, look, nothing to fear here. The machine worked at logic and accuracy. We did a random audit. So you don't need to look at the source code. You don't need to open up the machines to see if there's wireless technology. You just need to trust us.
Yeah. And as a technology guy myself, I want to see those machines. I want to, before, in fact, we're kind of doing that here in Josephine County. We've got an election integrity team that we've put together. And, we're going to hopefully, I mean, it's all mail in voting though, and they won't let us do otherwise. We can't do the old fashioned, they've got all these rules. I mean, wish us luck.
Hmm.
People here in Oregon, what should we actually be paying attention to when it comes to how our elections are run?
I like to make problems smaller, because if you focus on the enormity of the problem, you'll just want to throw in the towel and give up. Um, so I think small. You research the systems, you learn about the systems that you use as a citizen, and then you highlight the problems. And it's really that simple. So when people say, Dave, you don't know whether or not the machines are doing anything in the state of Oregon, um, I'd say you're correct, but neither do you. But
Yeah.
neither do you. And there are certain vital records that will make a liar or a truth teller out of one of us. Give us the records. Well, we won't do that. All right. So that's the impasse. And it's like, well, why not? Because you've got this other problem, which is you guys are gaslighting me over having confidence in elections. And the thing that gives me confidence are looking at auditable records. And well, they'll say, well, you can look at the paper ballots. Well, if you can generate them from faulty voter rolls, then there's no way to determine their accuracy. That's why everyone's having heartache in Oregon right now over Trump's executive order that you're going to use voter roll lists that have been reconciled through the DHS and SSA um, databases, because they've purged tens of thousands of people from those lists. And they're saying, look, if you want to send out ballots in Oregon using the U.S. Postal Service, a federal agency, you're going to use our list. And you'd think everyone would welcome that, eliminating dead people, people that are 200 years old. No, they're loading up to fight. So every time you push back for some type of transparent means of voting, there's just a lack of good faith. So I think what we do is we continue to confront them with the truth. Well, what record? What are you talking about? What would prove it? Oh, a cast vote record summary. Well, we don't know how to look at it. Contact me. We'll get you experts that can look at it. And either you're going to have a data set that looks perfectly normal with random behavior, or you're going to have something that looks controlled. And in a random process, you should not have any data that looks like it's controlled with a linear glide slope and a pre-selected outcome. And yet that's what we see in the data. You really don't have to do that as much in Oregon because of the mail-in ballots. What they're doing is they're using a credit line where they're inflating numbers that are um, either fictitious, like these aren't real people, or they're real, but they're low propensity voters or zero propensity voters. They don't vote. And so what happens is someone conducted business at the DMV, and under the motor voter law, they were automatically added to the voter rolls. And then some NGO or bad actor simply creates a ballot that's tied to their voter ID number, and they just start stuffing your ballot boxes. And that's why you all haven't had a Republican governor since the inception of vote by mail.
Yeah. 40
And so
something
if
years. Yep.
if people aren't serious about mitigating the problems, um, there's something else at work there. But it's certainly not because I don't know what I'm talking about. I'd welcome the opportunity to inspect the equipment. And the other thing, even with the logic and accuracy tests, where they're running those ballots through a tabulator in some centralized voting center, um, whether it's hooked to the internet or not, it's irrelevant. You can do all kinds of things in the firmware to have it behave differently on a different date, even without internet connection. That's what everyone focuses on. Are they hooked to the internet? Well, that's important. But when I ask people, like, okay, have you ever looked at a tabulator? Some of them say, yeah, I've seen it. And there's usually a date and a clock on the tabulator. Like, okay, yeah. And it's hard. It's hardened. No one can access it. Like, okay, that's what they tell me. And around November, we have this phenomena called daylight savings time, where the time adjusts. And if you look at the tabulator, this hardened system, it adjusts without any updates, without any programming, which means someone programmed the device prior to delivering it to you all to account for a change of how the device showcases the time. So why can't you just calculate a trigger to have the device act differently after your logic and accuracy test? I mean, it's not rocket science. And so like what I'm saying is great. You showed me that your machine worked on this date at this time. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in how the machine performed during the election. And the only thing that tells me that is the cast vote record summary that you all refuse to produce for auditors. So, it's ridiculous, but we're used to it. All they've got is gaslighting and this false sense of confidence. But when you push them, they don't want to play ball.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty wild. And I mean the fact that they're really not letting us get away from mail-in voting countywide. No county in Oregon has done that yet. We're kind of hoping to be the first. I don't even know what that's going to be like. I mean, we're just now prepping for that. And hopefully we can get the county clerk on board with this. And, I mean, it's mail-in
I
voting
wouldn't
is,
count on it.
is
I wouldn't
now.
count on
Yeah. I
it.
mean,
I count on them dragging their feet.
yep.
And
Yep.
that's the beauty of Trump's executive order is that he's not relying, it's not fashioned in a way that he has to have any buy-in from any of your county workers.
Yeah.
If you guys don't want to go along with it, guess what he's going to do? He's going to tell Scott Bessent over at the Treasury to stop disbursement of federal funds under the Help America Vote Act. And then you guys aren't going to have any money to run your elections. So he doesn't require you all to do anything. He's like, look, if you don't want to use our curated list that have purged the rolls of non-US citizens, fine, generate your own. Send them out using something that's not the US Postal Service because you're not going to use USPS under the executive order that we've issued. And if you need money, good luck getting it. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a pretty rock solid EO in that fashion.
That's great. I mean, it's an amazing thing. And of course, Oregon's fighting it and we're going to spend millions of dollars doing it, which is insane. We're sitting down here in Josephine County, which is red. We're looking up at those guys, and you're, well, what are you doing? you
Well, they
know,
can fight, but here's the deal: Trump's pushing this towards, um, a crescendo of sorts because he knows that he can't get Congress or the Uniparty on board because they've got a vested interest to protect the system that allowed them through. Um, he knows that he's not going to get buy-in from secretaries of state and clerks that are completely dependent on the vendors to run their elections for them. None of them know really how the software and technology works. And if they're telling you that they do, then they're probably part of the cheat.
yeah,
Um,
like Eric, for
yeah.
example. Yeah,
So, you know, um, I think the proverbial shit's going to have to hit the fan and it's going to get messy, but I don't see another way out of this. I mean, I think Trump knows that there's going to be lawsuits. There's already been lawsuits filed over the EO. There's going to be injunctions. But even there, last year, the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Trump admin that injunctions had to stay within their locality. You don't get a nationwide shutdown. So you're going to have all kinds of states that are red states that hopefully will operate in good faith with the executive order. I'm not even convinced that that's the case because the red states are just as bad as the blue states when it comes to getting rid of the machines. They really want to keep them. So we'll see if Trump has the wherewithal to enforce it? That's really going to be the question. It's one thing to have something in writing. It's another thing to see him crack down and bring cheaters to justice.
Yeah, and I hope that happens. I mean, I really do. So what are the specific weak points that concern you the most as far as ballot handling and stuff like that? I mean, you
There's
just
not
named
one. There's
no,
not one.
yeah,
I mean, look, it's an assembly line. And if you're a bad guy, you want to have operational supremacy from start to finish. And so it's as simple as let me look at what products you use and let me look at the set of laws that you have that gives me access or doesn't give me access, and then tailor your cheat accordingly. So it's death by a thousand cuts.
yeah,
So if you're in a place like Oregon, it's a lot easier to cheat because it's vote by mail and you've got no real meaningful chain of custody. Um, signature verification has become an absolute joke. If you actually look at the videos of people verifying signatures, it's like they're at Vegas at a slot machine, pressing the button, going through the images, if they even do that. But here's the other thing. There's nothing that stops the software from overriding the data and images after the fact. I mean, so when I say that you got operational supremacy, most states, when they cobble together their votes, they retrieve their data sticks from the tabulators and they insert them into an election management system. And at that point, they're doing that because they need to relay their totals from Grants Pass or some of the place that's not the headquarters of the Secretary of State. The Secretary of State's office aggregates all of the data so she can at least report the statewide races, statewide totals. So um, usually what happens is they send the data. The Secretary of State will reconcile that data through an integrated software that's hooked to the internet accessible. And you've got a bunch of vendors, but they all have the same functional capability. So whether it's electionware, whether it's score, whether it's VR systems, whether it's total vote, they all have the ability to take a look at your data set, reconcile it, and then what happens is when you look at the data that's being exported from the counties up to the SOS, it's not read only. We've documented this in many states. It's usually read write, meaning the Secretary of State has an ability to overwrite the data and send it back. And so when the clerks have their kumbaya meeting 2 weeks after an election, they have prepared what's known as a canvas report. That report's not prepared by them. It's actually prepared by the Secretary of State because again, they're reconciling the totals, making sure that everything matches. And then everyone gets their canvas report and they say, all right, commission or whoever certifies the local vote, this is what we found. Everyone did a great job. But that data has changed hands and there's so many vectors for attack. And so when you've got an integrated software that allows you to track absentee ballots going out and in, election night reporting, tallying of results, e-poll books, you name it, um, you have the ability to change anything at any time. And for people think that I'm being, hyperbolic, my wife and I were one of the people that broke the story in Tarrant County, Texas, where during a logic and accuracy test, um, they ran their test deck through, a vote was added, and then the ballot image was altered that corresponded to that change. They ran a second logic and accuracy test. A vote was deleted. The ballot image was altered. So if you can alter ballot images and change people's perception of what's going on, because rarely will they ever give you the actual physical ballots, at least all of them, they won't do that. They'll let you look at the ballot images. Well, what good is that if you can digitally alter them? And that just happened. So don't tell me you can't alter signatures. You can't upload a signature file database because typically they're taking some type of record at like a deed or some type of electronic file that has stored your signature. Well, why can't they just upload the signature? They do that. So, no one's looking at actual tangible paper. They're just looking at whatever is on their screen. And that's how you attack the system. You're attacking people's perception.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, there's like direct ways to do that. I mean, even if, like you said, even when there's no internet, I mean, maybe it's just ready to go. It's pre-programmed to fool people at that very moment. I mean,
Well, at
it'll
some
work.
point, there's internet. At some
Yeah,
point, and
sure.
if you guys don't have electronic poll books, do you all have? I don't know if you even need them
No,
because
no.
of your vote by mail.
Yeah, it's all vote by
But
mail.
but if you're in a place with electronic poll books, guess what? Those are networked. Your
Yep.
election management system's networked. So at
Right.
some point, you're going to interface with the internet, and it's just a matter of okay, how do I subvert everything that you've done downstream? There's going to be a choke point where you're relaying data to the Secretary of State's office. It's on the internet.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I do encounter people that are like, there's nothing to see here. There's nothing wrong. What do I say to them? What do you say to them?
Uh, you don't cast your pearls before swine. I mean, look, there's people that need to hear it that are going to work with you in good faith. You can't waste time
Right.
arguing with people that are ideologically possessed because what you're dealing with is someone's pride. They're not intellectually honest. They're not curious. They don't have an abiding conviction one way or the other. And I'm sitting there going, well, then get the F out of my face.
Yeah.
Like if you don't want to do the homework to come to a place where you can affirmatively say whether you're right or wrong, and you're just like this in this holding
Yep.
pattern of agnosticism, it's well, like, shit or get off the pot. I
I've
mean, I
seen
just
it.
don't have time for those people because it's like that show, What We Do in the Shadows. It's like the time vampire. They're just sucking your life force, and the clock, it's ticking away. And that's time that I need to be effective to go forth and make an impact with people that do care. So if people are in this just for the intellectual exercise of moving your horsepower around upstairs and just entering into a time suck and arguing with people on social media, you can do that. Not very effective. So I would just say move on.
Yeah.
Move on. There are people that need to be reached that will enter into a discussion, and it's not about them being right. It's about having a conversation on what is the truth.
Yeah. And I mean, I do encounter people like that a lot, and it's Trump derangement syndrome. In fact, uh, I had Trump derangement syndrome. Um, Before January of 25, in fact, I was stage one Trump derangement syndrome. I had I was a non-affiliated voter, right? And I just didn't like how he was on social media trolling people. That was kind of my thing back then. Past that, I was like, whatever. But now I kind of like that. He's getting out there and he's pushing, and it gets people thinking. And there, but there's a
You're not
lot of
the only
people.
one.
Yeah, yeah,
You're
and
not the only one. Look, a lot of people were offended by his mean tweets. But what I've learned is that when you give him time and context and more facts, you realize that his mean tweets were actually understated. Now, at the time, it's just, well, that's just rude. It's civil. But the more that you learn about Crossfire Hurricane, the Mueller hoax, impeachment one, impeachment two, the weaponization against him, the multitude of ways that people have lied about him, and you figure out who the conduits are for those lies, and he throws out a little zinger. Um, Usually he says stuff because he knows far more than we do about what he's talking about. And he's got enough confidence that given enough time, let's revisit this in a year. And everyone's going to be like, oh, that Trump, I was with them the whole time. Like, no, you weren't. But, I mean, I was not a Trump guy in 2016. I mean, I didn't vote for him. It took 4 years to kind of break free of the brainwashing and to see him in his element. And I've said this many times, but um, I loathe the media. And I'm sitting there going, why is it that the media hates this man? Like, I couldn't reconcile that. Like, I don't like him. Why? But yet they attack the guy. So I had to start focusing on let me not let them editorialize everything that he says and just listen to the man speak through a primary source. and it completely shattered my view of him. When you actually listen to him in context without editorialization, the guy is absolutely a force to be reckoned with, a genius. And once you get on the Trump train, truly on the Trump train, if you're not in it to use him to, inflate your numbers, your social media following, it's hard to jump off. I mean, my appreciation for him just it increases the longer that I'm witnessing his leadership.
Yeah. And and I've started to discover that. I mean, it's taking time. Um, I'm a PCP. I'm a Republican PCP now, and
Okay.
I got into the social media scene because I am a nerd, so that's what I'm good at. Um, but I talk to a lot of my followers, and there's people across the street that are with their signs, and I try and talk to them too. We're all people, we're all members of the community, but like you said, sometimes it's just a waste of time. You can't convince some folks like, hey, you're a member of my community and I wish you the best, but get the
Yeah,
F out of my face.
put
You know,
put your sign out in the yard, risk a little vandalism,
yeah. Yeah.
put that hat on and force the conversation. I mean,
Right.
typically what happens is when people are triggered and they're so unable to account for their emotional equilibrium and they have to lash out,
That's right.
and you're sitting there composed because you know that you can back up why you've made the decision to follow this person or vote for this person. Um, it's pretty easy. And so I've been around so many people that are so triggered to come up and they'll point a finger and yell at me. Um, and there's no substance there. There's
No,
no
no.
substance.
Yeah, you ask them. I mean, they're like, they call you a Nazi, they call you a fascist. You're like, well, what's a Nazi? And
Yeah.
they kind of
Yeah.
look at you and hey,
It's
define.
Trump. That's who,
Yeah, yeah, it's
that's
you.
you. It's you. It's like, but that's the thing. Like, look, I mean, I understand reasonable people can disagree, or perhaps people don't have a fully integrated view of Trump's trolling. I mean, case in point, he put out the posts of destroying civilization, and there's so many different ways to read that. But if you know him, he's not talking about Iran. Iran is nothing to speak of from a military standpoint. They're a proxy.
Yeah,
They
and
are absolutely propped up as the engine for a foreign policy that allows for our military to make our prime contractors rich. They're propped up by Lloyd's of London, the banks of England, and so you don't even have separation between the centralized banks in Europe and the Federal Reserve. They're all in it together, and so anytime they can't get a politician on their script, they end up creating turmoil in the Middle East. Gas prices go up, everyone gets pissed off, and they want a scapegoat. And they tried to do that with Trump. And every president until Trump has been subjected to that, and it's largely worked. So even if you had someone that maybe was a good person at first, game, set, match, because when Lloyd's of London stops insuring vessels, they don't move oil. And if you don't move 20% of the oil, you have famine, you have prices going up on the shelves. And Trump said, okay, well, why is it that they have such a chokehold on insuring ships when they're relying on the U.S. Navy for their security? And so Trump said, okay, well, we'll insure it. We're the insurers, and we'll make sure that things reach their points of destination through the United States Navy. And he has removed all of these elements that were under the bondage of the bankers. And so what he's doing, he's trying to win a war with finality where we can't be held hostage over an oil barrel, which is typically what happens. So he's all about winning. And when you see that, and you see that, okay, he didn't destroy civilization, he's actually talking about the central bank civilization, their culture, the people that prop up Iran and Israel for that matter. It's two sides of the same coin to have that constant conflict there. And then we get gaslit depending on, your theology of, well, I stand with Israel. Like, yeah, okay, I do too. But do you stand with Mossad? Eh. you know, those are the types of conversations that we're having now. And, so you just take a step back and you're sitting there going, I've got 10 years of tape with this man. He does not like war, but when he goes in, it's maximum lethality. It's strategic. It's get in, get out. And it's everything that you want your military to actually be used for. But you want to have concrete victories that might last a decade as opposed to the forever wars, the forever phenomena of the American taxpayer subsidizing everything in Ukraine, Middle East, Afghanistan. I mean, after 25, 26 years, you'd think we've had enough. And Trump's sitting there going, yeah, I've had enough. We're going to put an end to it right now. And that's what he's doing right now.
Yeah, he gets in and gets it done, and that's it. I mean, he did that in Venezuela. Um, he's doing that now. I mean, and a lot of people didn't like the whole, we're going to destroy the entire civilization. I mean, there was a lot of people that were like, "Whoa, that's not cool," but it
We baited him.
worked.
We
Yeah, he
baited him.
baited him, and it worked.
Oh, he's genocidal. Let's
Yeah,
get the
yep.
25th Amendment. And then he doesn't do it. He's like, he's a pussy.
That's right.
How, maybe not genocidal, but he's a coward. It's like, well, so now you want him to kill people?
Yeah, yeah, they're kind of
It's like,
ridiculous.
it's absolutely, yeah.
So, I mean, and you've taken a lot of heat for speaking out about this, and I mean, what keeps you going?
You can't care about what the world thinks. It's really that simple. My faith is deepened. I try my best to hear the wisdom that the Holy Spirit has to offer and open my Bible and walk with Jesus. And it's not to say that I always get it right or I always see clearly, but it's a continued effort of prayer and going, all right, Lord, what do you want me to know about what I'm seeing in the news right now? And whether it's intuition or your conscience, or, for me as a person of faith, the Holy Spirit, typically there's peace that settles in right in your stomach. Um, and it's never wrong. Your intuitions, every regret, I'll challenge anyone that watches. Every time you've had a regret, it's because you went against that small, still whisper that was telling you, this is too good to be true. Or I wouldn't trust this person, but he's saying all the right things. Don't walk away from that intuition. And so I try not to. I get as confused as anyone given the nation state level of psyop that's going on. I mean, there's nothing that's going on that's devoid of several psyops that are competing against one another. And I try to make sense of it. Um, but if you don't care what the press writes about you, you don't care about what your neighbors think about you, you can operate pretty freely. And what happens is invariably, if you're right, you'll be proven right because truth is like a law of physics. And the truth is a person. It's the Word. It's Jesus. And so if you've arranged your life accounting for the idea that when I step out of bed, I know I'm not going to float out into the atmosphere, that you know force and mass and all these things are, you just you come to a point where like, okay, I can take a step and not have to do the science. It's the same thing with truth. At some point, it's going to present itself, hopefully during your lifetime. But I've found that, I couldn't do this and I couldn't have the agency to go to Oregon and have a room full of people that are interested in what I'm saying if everything that I've reported over the past 6 years has been wrong. I
Right.
mean, if everything that I predicted or said is just BS that can be debunked, people would say, outside the mainstream media, because they certainly say that, um, they'd stop showing up. And instead, it's like, no, I've been vindicated on a daily basis because I'm trying to align with whatever the truth is. And in many respects, I've offended a lot of people that have their thing. And it's like, I'm not interested in your thing. I'm not even interested in my thing. I don't have a thing. It's just, what the hell happened? Let's get to whatever it is. And if we screw up or we're wrong, say, hey, it was wrong. I apologize. I'm sorry based on the information. That's okay too. Just keep approaching these things. It's not about you being right. It's about what is the truth. And so for me, it's like I just want to be able to go to bed at night with a clean conscience. I don't want to wrestle with some type of internal guilt that I've got something going and I've got to keep all of the plates spinning in the air. Who wants to live that way? And yeah, so I think that's been my medicine, which is just try to find the truth, stay as close to it as possible, and all the other stuff is just it's noise.
Yeah, that's amen to that. I mean, and I've messed up. I've said the wrong things sometimes, and it was like I had to go out and say, "Look, folks, sorry, I messed up here," and I try and stick with the real data. And one time I didn't. I didn't have the real data, and I hurt somebody, and it was like, whoa. I found out the truth later, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, that I messed up.
That's
Um,
humility, and that's it's so forgivable. Like if people acknowledge it, like it's refreshing to even hear you say that. And look, I've been taken in on stuff on a huge national stage. I mean, I was one of the first people to break ranks with a lot of people around Mike Lindell, and I love Mike. I count Mike as a good human being, but I had some major red flags over the PCAPs and the Dennis Montgomery stuff in 2021. And you give so much as much time to figure out, okay, is this accurate? Is it not? About 4 months after the symposium, I had a firm and abiding conviction that I could defend that that data was supplied to destroy Mike, not to help. And it was a perfect psyop where you blend the truth that many experts like myself were bringing to the stage, or Seth Keshel, and you just throw in some stuff that's not so good. And but for Tina Peters showing up on the scene as a whistleblower, having the forensic image of Mesa, um, the first symposium was a massive trap. It was created not to destroy the movement, because Mike didn't have that intention, but there were enough bad actors that infiltrated, saying we're gonna run this off the rails. And so that made me a villain for questioning the PCAP data, but it didn't hold up to close scrutiny. It was basically, you got to trust me, you got to trust me, you got to trust me. It's like, no, I don't. I have to verify and validate whether or not this is legitimate. And if I can't verify it or validate it, I can't give you a vote of confidence just because I like you. And so whether it was that, whether it was the work of Jovan Hutton Pulitzer, which was largely garbage to the degree that it was any good, it was stuff that he ripped off from other people. And then some of his conclusions were just absolute slop. Um, and so you just go down the laundry list, and you don't want to be the bearer of bad news. It's like, but I'm not in this for a popularity contest, because if they're right, I want to support them. I want them to help us fix the problem. And so you go through the motions. It's like, oh gosh, okay, that's bad. That's not so good. That's not so good. And there was a season where I'm at least entertaining it, because I'm like, look, if these guys are patriots and they're trying to solve the election rigging problem, we need to stand together in unity. But we have an equal responsibility if we see something that doesn't add up to say, okay, wait a minute, let's press pause. Let's ask some questions. And when you get gaslit for asking questions, that's usually a signal that you need to run. You need to run, not walk away from some of these experts.
yeah. So I mean, in going into that, so if somebody in my community, they want to get involved and not just posting online, what should they be doing?
Defend your turf, defend your backyard, because you'll never regret meeting your neighbors, becoming friends with other like minded patriots. You got to think about this as a community. Um, and don't get bogged down in arbitrary outcomes. People think, well, I didn't succeed unless I got a bill passed. I didn't succeed unless I got a lawsuit filed and got this. Both of those environments are weaponized against you. You're never going to get a fair shot in a courtroom or with politicians that are protecting the status quo. Um, so it's all about hearts and minds. It's all about hearts and minds. You'll never waste your time speaking the truth to your neighbor. And then you stand by your neighbor in places of consequence. So that could be a county commission meeting. And that might be having your podcast. It might be puts up on Facebook. I mean, there's a place for social media, but it should be capturing an event that happened in the real world between you and a tyrant.
Yeah.
And you don't have to go very far to find a tyrant. They're in your backyard. So I like looking at what are the number of people that are responsible for certifying a machine and certifying a vote locally. I figure out who they are. When do they show up to their meetings? When do they do their certification? And then it's a matter of numbers. There's 5 of them. There's 1 of me. Jordan, you want to come with me to a meeting? Yeah, I can do it this Tuesday.
Hmm.
Cool. Do you got 3 people you can bring? Yeah. Well, now it's 5 against 5. And then it's like you end up recording an exchange where you catch them in a lie, you put it up on Facebook, and it gets 10,000 views. Okay, now you're scaling and building an exposure campaign to win hearts and minds to solve a problem that's in your backyard. Next thing you know, you've got 50 people in a room and they're shutting down the meeting because you're not maintaining order. But they've lost the meeting, and that's a victory because they normally use that meeting to rubber stamp tyranny, and you're not going to let them do it. And so it's really about forming ranks and sitting there going, it's not about me being friends with them. It's not being about being nice to them. It's not about being mean to them either. It's like confront a lie, tell the truth, and look for ways of accountability. And that's where social media comes in. It's all about using what you've got to hold someone accountable. And many times I call it the Jacob Marley effect. You know, it's like from the Dickens books where Scrooge is visited by the Christmas ghost and he hears the rattling chains. You want these certifiers to hear rattling chains 24/7. When they look at their phone, they're like, oh my God, I look like such a hypocritical idiot in this Facebook post that Jordan put up from a public meeting that has to be on YouTube because that's the law. And next thing you know, you change the atmosphere. You change the atmosphere of when you walk into a room that they know that okay, this guy is a protector of the vote, a protector of the community, and he's willing to fight however long that's needed. And so for someone like me that's been fighting day one on this issue to the degree that I could recognize it for what it was, like I'm not going anywhere. We don't have any choice. Like you take the black pill and give up. It's like, okay, great. But we haven't won yet. And victory is not going to occur until we see people sentenced and jailed.
Yeah. And I mean, when people actually start to step up into that role, I mean, what happens? What happens to our community? What happens to the country when more people like you are stepping up? I mean, it's going to be it's going to be awesome. I mean, hopefully we reach people like that and more people get inspired.
Yeah, I really wish people had a vision for going to a county commission meeting or city council meeting is not punishment. If you actually saw it as we get to check in with our servants, these are our servants, our public servants, and tell them, don't like the way you're governing. You're
Yeah.
screwing up. And I'm here to tell you that you can do this better. Here's how. And have buy-in. So it's like a village where people come in and we've abdicated that. We don't it's like no, it's punishment. It's like being sent to detention. And it does feel that way because you're usually treated like crap, but it's up to you to change that. And people typically will change their mind through one of 2 things. Um, a Holy Spirit come to Jesus meeting where God literally puts them in the palm of their hand. That's a radical change, or by fear. It's just like, oh, the mob's here and I'm scared. Like either one works. You want the former more than the latter, but um, we have to get better at forming a righteous mob to show up and express what we think via the First Amendment, where we have every right to speak up and petition for redress of grievances. We have the right to assemble peacefully. And when political violence is being done against us by, you only get 2 minutes to talk. I'm sorry, that's what the First Amendment was created for. It's completely arbitrary. So we should be going in there like, that's an arbitrary rule. You can lift it right now. We've tried to get on the agenda for this issue to talk at length. You shut it down. You don't let it happen. So now we're here to take over this meeting.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can do so in a way that's not violent at all. But they have violated their oaths of office. They've violated their statutory duties to ensure that your vote has meaning. And when they've gamified the system to shut you down, to make you look like a monkey who gets 2 minutes to talk during public comment, that's not a winning proposition. So, what's the solution to that? It's not to complain, it's not to give up. It's, have you created such a fervor in your backyard that you've got 200, 300, 400, 500 people that flood that area and they get the message they will have no peace until we get our way. And it's not our way in a petty, childish way. It's like we get our way. We want honest elections. What a
Yeah.
concept.
Yeah. It's an amazing concept. And then and like you said, we get 3 minutes here, right, in the commissioner meetings, and it's like, what? I mean, you got to pack all this in 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And if you breach that, they hammer the gavel or they escort you out. And
Well, they try. See, I mean, that's why I was doing Gideon 300 trainings for years, where it's like, have you guys tried standing up together, walking to the well, not having one person, and just
right.
put them on notice? This is your constituents, and you just flood the room. We have tried to get this on the agenda, have a meaningful conversation for 4, 5, 6 years. You haven't done it, and then you cut us off through this 3 minute time requirement. You need to put this on the agenda. If you don't, we'll be back next time with twice as many people and try to have a sheriff's deputy escort a mob out. It
Yeah.
won't happen. They're going to
No.
sit on the sidelines and then report on it. Have everyone go, you should have seen how they look like they were seeing a ghost. Humiliate them if necessary. But I mean, that to me is a smarter way of operating, because what they're relying on is their monopoly on force, which is, yeah, we've got the deputy, you don't. Well, that whole dynamic changes if the community shows up together, stands together, speaks together. Then that whole thing falls apart.
Yeah, that's an amazing, and I've seen it happen here too, where people will come in and they're just like they refuse, and it's a cool thing when that does happen. Um, so if you last question, if you had to fix one thing in the system, what would it be?
Accountability.
Accountability.
It's the only thing. Like, I don't want to debate anyone anymore on technical data and deviations. If I could change one thing, be king for a day, I'd round up the nation state bad actors. I'd have them tried in a military commission. I'd have that hearing televised for the world to see, and I'd have them publicly executed. And all of a sudden, you would see action on everything else.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe we do need to think on what Professor Clements talked about with respect to these machines. But until we see that, there's not going to be the requisite fear for people to try and do the right thing, because they have no fear of any consequence because they haven't faced them. So we need to get into the consequence phases. And this is all in keeping with the law. So for people that hear this, look, I'm a big due process guy. And under certain statutory crimes, there's a penalty. We need to see the legally prescribed penalty for people that are violating the law with impunity. And as soon as that happens, eureka, you'll have your country back.
Yeah. And and I just pray for that to happen. I really do. And at a local level here in Josephine County in Oregon and across the nation. So anyway, David Clements, Professor Clements, everybody, thank you so much for being on my show. Thank you for coming to Grants Pass. I know that a lot of people are going to appreciate what you've done. There's people that missed that Patriots conference, so hopefully they'll be able to watch this. And then I'm going to put the link below for the video where you actually spoke and you had your demonstration, and it was fantastic. I was there, and we went out to lunch afterward, and yeah, thank you for being
Yeah.
you. I
Well,
appreciate
my
everything.
pleasure. Jordan picked up the tab at lunch, and that's what made my show. It's like, any man that's going to buy dinner for this many people, I've got to do his podcast, because that was That
Yeah,
was a
thank
pretty
you.
big check. So,
Right. Yeah, it was
so
good. It was pretty good food too. I mean, I like that place, La Burrita, Grants Pass. And it was
good,
just,
good
yeah,
people and
yeah,
yeah, good times. So, Jordan, it was great talking with you, and wish you the best of success in Oregon. I know that I was on a call last night with NVBM with Ben and Michaela,
yeah, yeah. Missed
uh,
that. I was
that
unfortunate. I was out of clients. I was going to join that too, but
yeah. So I know they're not going to give up. I know you're not going to give up.
no.
And if there's anything I can do to help, just you know, shine the bat signal.
Yeah. The
I'll,
David
I'll come.
signal.
The
Got
David
it.
signal, whatever that
Yeah.
is. That's like a shadow glass of bourbon or something.
Right. There you go.
All right.
All
God
right.
bless you.
Thank you. Yeah, you too. Have a good day.